Zach, I want to start with you because I feel like we got to know your character a lot in season 1. How much did you know about Dylan's Audi when you were started with season 1? How much did you know what was going to happen in this season?
I didn't know much. I sort of took the approach of, I knew that we weren't really going to meet my Audi in season 1. And so I said, you only need to tell me what my innie would know. So I kind of was just waiting to find that out this year.
And then how did you approach that? How did you feel about playing these two characters?
It was interesting. It was, I think especially in season 1, my character, he's really interested in hypothesizing what he might be like on the outside. And then as he starts to learn more about himself, it kind of changes the way he sees himself. So that was fun to kind of watch that happen this season.
Yeah. Merritt, Gretchen, I love her and root for her and want her to have what she needs in life in so many ways.
From who?
Just like from everyone. I want her to have those cookies that you slice and just have them be made, But tell me about coming to the show in season 2. Had you watched season 1? What was the conversation like with Ben Stiller and the team?
When I got the call, I had not yet seen season 1, and so then I hope we can remain. But then, like everybody else, sat down to watch it and binged it as quickly as I could. And I remember I got a text saying, expect a text from Ben Stiller or something like that, and got very nervous, and as actors do. I remember he gave me kind of broad strokes what she might be doing over the course of the season, and it feels ballsy in retrospect, but I asked if he could provide maybe some more details. And again, in retrospect, given that they're so discreet, he gave me a bit of a shape of what to expect. It didn't all happen, but I was given a container. Yeah.
I read that he kind of gave you this 2-page dossier essentially, and was like, this is where you are, this is where it's going.
They gave me a sense of what would happen, and they changed course slightly, but I still, again, in retrospect, given how discreet the show is, I felt, I guess, oddly respected, or I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The effort.
Sure. Do you guys like knowing where things are headed with the show, or are you please don't tell me until I see the script?
I guess I don't mind either way. This season it was not. I similarly got a description of what our arc was kind of going to be, and that was very helpful. But when it doesn't have anything to do with my character, I do kind of like to find out as I'm reading the scripts, or even as I watch it later, kind of.
Yeah. Me too. I stayed in the dark, especially in season 1. I was like, the whole thrust of this gal's situation is that she doesn't know what's happening in Lumen, and it's driving her nuts. So I was like, I don't think I need to know either. So I just didn't read the Lumen scenes. And then I watched the first season when it came out with my friends, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Jen, Devin is I feel like she's who I want in a foxhole. You know what I mean? She is tough and fiercely loyal, and I love the brother-sister relationship, and I know that Adam Scott has spoken so much about that dynamic and about what an amazing scene partner you are. Tell me about finding that connection, because the way that the two of them, the way she supports him and the way they work kind of in concert to figure things out this season is so wonderful.
Thank you. I mean, I have to give Adam so much credit for that, because he, at being at the helm of the show, I think I didn't know him before. We had never worked together before, and I was really nervous. We also came into season one coming right off the height of the pandemic. So we were masked and shielded and distant. So there wasn't that sort of normal runway of camaraderie where you're like, let's grab a beer and trauma bond. And so we've since done that. And let me tell you, his trauma is deep. But I met him for the first time really at like the table read. And I was so nervous. I think I just dissociated for the first 2 weeks of work. But the ease there is real. I mean, sometimes, you have to feign that kind of thing. But he's as lovely as you think he is. And I think it's easy because we both deflect with humor as ourselves. And so do those characters. So that felt natural.
So I'm curious for all three of you because I feel like the chemistry with your various characters and in this room of actors, like when you have chemistry with someone in a scene, is it like immediately?
I do think what you mentioned about season one was particularly unusual in that we didn't get a lot of time before shooting, but it was such a unique experience that it did sort of kind of force us together, especially the MDR group. Like all my scenes were with them, so I felt by the end of season one we were like super locked in. And then with Merritt, I knew instantly. I mean, I did. I feel like once we started rehearsing and then once we started shooting, it was like, okay, great.
Yeah, we didn't have to talk about too much. I remember I came in early that one day and we went upstairs and just kind of with Ben and maybe Mark read it twice, and there just felt like it was there, and so we didn't have to do too much else but do the scenes, which I always kind of prefer.
Do you like rehearsing before? Like, do you like? It sounds like you don't like extensive. You like sort of having like a quick rehearsal and then doing it.
I don't mind rehearsing. I'm not a fan of talking about acting without marrying it to the doing of acting. I don't want to sit, especially before. Well, no, because we're not. No, very different. I promise. No, if you and I and the two of them were to sit for 2 hours and before reading the scene or before really diving into giving it a go and getting muscle memory and actually doing it, or to sit and talk about it for 2 hours, I find that. It might work for some people, but for me, it gets me out of touch with instinct in my body. So I was glad we didn't do that. Yeah.
Speaking like the chemistry and just the way that both of these characters in this episode, when they first see each other, the body chemistry is so specific. The way you're holding yourselves, there's so much innocence there and sadness and heartbreak and hopefulness and there's so much that they're both care and curiosity that they're both carrying. So how did you tell me about when you guys filmed that scene?
I really do think we kind of just did it. Like Merritt was saying, we didn't talk about it a ton and we didn't rehearse it a ton, but on our show, we do end up shooting things a lot. So you kind of have time to figure it out as you're going. And I think, it was like, at least for me, it was this sort of feeling of a first date, but with someone who you already know and have this feeling for, and so that was kind of what I focused on as we were doing it. But we really did just kind of do it and figure it out as we were doing it.
And I'm remembering now, I think that when they first contacted me about this job, they sent me those scenes. I think they sent me that script. Mm-hmm. And so I could tell, I think I was coming off of a job where the writing was very, trying to find a way to say it. You're saying the thing that you mean. There's not a lot of elbow room. There's not a lot of room in the material to kind of sit in it and live, to play and not say. And in this, when I got these pages, the thing that I liked or appreciated was that it was a bit of a 180 from that job, and it felt like there was a lot of room to play and not say, to experience, to swim in the weirdness of the situation and to behave instead of to just say I'm mad or I think I was getting tired of that. And we shot those scenes all day.
I was so curious why you think Gretchen went. Was it for her or for him?
I think she goes back for her in later episodes. But when she goes there the first time, my understanding was that they had been visited and told there was an issue, and that she really is coming to tell him, you need to keep your job. We need you to keep your job. This has been an issue for us in the family, and we really need you. We need you to keep this job, and that's why he was severed to begin with. But I don't know if that was your understanding of the situation.
Yes. Same.
Jen, there's this heartbreaking moment where Devin is talking about Gemma and says she was my family too. And it's such a beautiful moment, and we really get insight a little bit into who Devin is and what her connection is, and I love that, and I loved learning that other thing about her, and we get to see a little bit of what their lives were like pre all of this. But how much did you want to know about what these two couples who were very close and really very much in each other's lives were all about?
Everything, because for me, it's the root of her why, really, for both seasons. I mean, in season 1, when we meet her, she's really there in contrast to Mark's Audi. So, story-wise, we needed her to be sort of affable and funny and on the outside of the darkness of Lumen. But we knew going into this season, Dan Erickson, our wonderful show creator, and all of the writers, but really Dan, before we started shooting this season, said, look, I think we need to peel back a little bit and understand her own personal stake in the story. And I said, well, how close do you think they were, specifically Devin and Gemma? And he said, I think they were close. And we had one long lunch in LA, and I said, what if they were really close? I think there has to be, for her to really go where she goes and ultimately call Cobell and get into that whole rigmarole, there has to be a personal stake beyond just caring for her brother. So I was grateful that they let us explore that. And it was really emotional to shoot that scene in episode 7 and the flashback stuff with Deechin, because we'd never been in a scene together before, but we, sort of to your point, Zach, we all got so close outside of work that knowing that backstory between the characters and finally getting to touch her, and that the feelings were at the surface definitely in that scene of finally getting to show that love.
I mean, did you find yourselves just feeling differently and carrying yourself differently in those moments, like before Lumen, or in the scenes where we see Dylan and Gretchen in their regular life too, in their Audi or in his Audi life also? Did you feel like physically you were kind of in a different body?
I did. I mean, I think the thing in my mind for Devin, all of season 1, she's trying to not wake the sleeping dragon of her family's own grief, and she knows that if she just maintains this general sense of levity and humor with her brother, and ultimately with her husband too, in his own sort of ego experience, that she can maintain stasis. But I think when we finally got to go back, when you know someone that has gone through a grief process and you're like, that's a different person than I knew before. I was like, what does it look like to go backwards and see all of them before that happened? Their chests are more open. You feel there is like an ease and a levity. That was really bittersweet to shoot.
It occurs to me now, it's like Merritt, but it's almost like the Devin's version of the Innie and Audi, it's a before and after, but a completely different person somehow.
I wondered, sorry, I'm interviewing, but I have to ask the question of you, because I wondered when I was watching it what that was like, because it was still both you, but flipping between the hymns.
Yeah. It must not be the same. It's not. Not the same sense of I'm a whole different person, but an acknowledgement that my scene partner is a whole different person, which he did very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now your turn. Now you got to ask a question.
No, I was going to say, as you were describing what you were describing about seeing someone before and after they've experienced grief, I do think that kind of is the whole thing with the Innies and the Outies. because the innies haven't experienced almost anything. Like their experiences are very, very limited. So like they have knowledge, but they don't have the experience. And then I think with Gretchen, this is his first experience of like attachment to someone in that way. So he then starts to kind of get a little bit closer to his outie as the season goes on, because he is starting to experience some of those same things.
And as we're really taking the reins here,
Go for it.
Oh, there's
We're gonna have
something
some
I can
questions for you as
genuinely,
well.
honestly, genuinely, honestly talk about it. Well, I'm very unpracticed. I've only spoken about the show like for this stuff once, so I apologize. You talking about the kind of firstness, the youngness, I like almost the childlike or adolescent stage of first love, for certain discoveries, was present for me when I was playing Gretchen, because I was very aware that the man that I was acting with, or the character that I was with, wasn't my husband, was younger, was somehow, was different in all the ways that I missed him and loved him and wished he still was and wished he would relate to me as. But there was this childlike nature that also, as Merritt, I knew was, for lack of a better word, gross. Like I remember like when our characters kiss and you had said after rehearsal, I don't think he's done this before. I appreciated that lens on it, because that is an aspect. There's a way that she's taking advantage of him. It's not just like this pure, like, what a romantic thing she gets to, have the man back that she misses. And there was something gross about it.
And then when you read the script, when you saw sort of, we can talk about what happens, yeah? Everyone saw, okay. When she says, I can't see you, and I mean, what was your reaction to that? Because I think for a lot of people found themselves so moved by this connection and sort of refinding each other or finding each other. So what did you think?
Well, again, I should have taken a page from Jen's book, and I shouldn't have asked for the whole. I knew it was coming, and it also felt like an inevitable loss unless she was going to be the kind of character that could carry on with that kind of duplicity. And it seemed clear that that's not who she was, and it's not who they were writing. But yeah, I think if I remember doing the scene and how horrible it felt to have him, literally down on one knee, again, with like a homemade ring that is very childlike. There's something, and there's an awe, that sweet aspect, but then there's also the other aspect of these being controlled, captured, inexperienced human beings, and that being a strange dynamic. But I remember seeing his character like that and knowing that this felt horrific. There was something grotesque and like a horror story about it. The thing that she wants her outside husband to be doing, she's getting from this inside husband that she can't see anymore, and also needs to stay alive so that she can have money to pay for there's something very, like a gross plant ecosystem.
But there's also, like, when I think about Dylan, there's a way that he finds connection, and when you see him on the outside just sort of like sitting in that chair, and then I think about him, Innie Dylan, and the way he finds a connection to his emotions. I mean, not just with Gretchen. I think about Irving, John Turturro, and the way that those two characters connect. And one of my favorite moments this season is when you deliver the eulogy, and it's so beautiful and it's so funny and heartfelt. So I also love that about him.
Yeah, it's a big year for him in terms of like new experiences. Like he really, and I do think that's, as the season goes on, we kind of see his innie and his outie are the ones who kind of end up being, they get a little closer together in perspective as the season goes on. I think a lot of that is because he does start to have these experiences that lends him a new perspective on what, kind of life is like with full adult responsibilities and emotions and these kind of things. So yeah, it was an interesting journey this season.
Jen, you mentioned Rickon. I mean, can you right? What do they tell you about these two?
What are you talking about? I'm actually glad you asked that. For one thing, I just have to say the brilliance of Michael Chernus is that you are able to look at what on the page could have otherwise, I think, been a cartoonish. And that's not to discredit the writing at all. It was done by design, I think, for him to be this sort of larger than life character. But I think what Michael does is actually really Herculean because he does find these moments of like levity and vulnerability and sadness in him. And even though he is like, he's verbose, Rickon is verbose, but he also, I think, Devin does really good with men who need her. And I think that like, she's not perfect. I think it's easy sometimes I hear people go, oh, she's the best sister. She's so nice. I wish she were my sister. And I'm like, she's not without her own selfish motives. I think probably like she doesn't work, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that she's in a really curated life with this guy that she does love and has a genuine friendship with him. But I think that like, it's not, she's not exactly like a blushing bride in a high tower. I think that she made a choice to be with this person and there is something symbiotic about it. She has her own ego, like you see it kind of when she flips and decides to take the reins herself, like I did in this interview five terrible minutes ago. And I regret both. But I think that that's to say, I think she's with him for many reasons. I think that he actually really does love her, and even though he is a bit of a blowhard, I think he's kind of a good partner. It's controversial, but I really stand by that, and I have to believe that to play her because if not, then there's nothing there. But yeah, she needs to be needed.
Mm-hmm. What was the single best piece of direction that you all got? I mean, you have some amazing directors this season. I think Ben directed the episode that we just watched. Was there anything that really helped open up your character for you with, I don't know, that with like a note from a director?
Do it again.
But smaller. That is a Stiller specialty. And actually, really, jokes aside, I appreciate this about him. He would say he said it to me once, and I thought he meant emotionally, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump off a cliff. And he was like, no, I mean, actually, like we're on your coverage, and I like come look at the monitor. And he was like, I need to show you what we're doing because I think you don't realize what we're doing. And it was actually a technical note, but it was helpful because I don't know. I know some actors don't ever want to know about that stuff. They don't want to know what it looks like. I don't really either. But in that moment, I don't remember what the context was, but I remember thinking, thank you. I see what I'm doing. Yeah.
I was half joking, but I really do appreciate knowing that, especially when Ben is directing, we will like, I don't have to feel self-conscious about like, are we getting it? Because I know we will get it. Like, we won't stop unless we have gotten it. And so then when we do stop, I don't have to feel like, oh, I don't know, how did I do? Did I do a job? I just have such trust in him that he's like watching everything and he knows what he wants and he knows the story we're trying to tell. So I can completely kind of like let go of my own analytical eye over my performance and just kind of like do it.
That's one of the several benefits of doing multi-season television, is that you get to work with people over a period of time, and you learn what they're like, and you learn to trust them, and they learn to trust you. As opposed to, always learning somebody for the first time and then finally establishing a working relationship that works creatively, and then you're on to the next gig.
I got to say, too, Jessica Lee Gagne, our wonderful DP who directed episode 7, I really loved working with her generally because she's brilliant, but also because she was directing for the first time. The kindness and like the warmth and curiosity she had with us as actors, you don't always experience that. And it took me by surprise. I was like, oh, because we'd worked with her in this other capacity for a whole season, and you think you know how someone ticks generally, and then watching her in this different capacity was really cool, and I was like, oh right, you're this other thing too, and so brilliantly. But
She's been there watching you guys.
Right.
She's not like a new director that you haven't worked with yet who comes in and has no. I mean, she's been seeing you guys take after take.
Merritt, you mentioned multi-season television and the joys of that. We know the show's been picked up for a third season. Are you already like, is your brain already thinking about, oh my God, what's going to happen to my respective characters? Or do you shut off when you're not in the mode of like, I'm doing this show and I'm playing this character?
Oh, is that a question?
Specifically for you.
Excuse me. I feel, I think traditionally I've not wanted to know what was going to happen when I've been on multiple seasons of a show. In the past, I guess I've only ever been on one show for more than one season. And with that one, I remember feeling very seen and taken care of by the writers. And so there was a level of trust, and getting each script was like getting a little present. Because again, one of the benefits of multi-season television is that it becomes a kind of lovely relay race, like baton passing. Like they'll write something, you read it and do the thing that you want to do with it, and then they see it and they catch some nuance that you wouldn't have even planned or known of, and then they decide to write the next script and write this other color for you or aspect, or they turn the knob up. So yeah, that's my answer. What is your answer?
No, I think that's exactly how I feel, and I think like thinking about Dylan and Irving this season, I think that is kind of what happened with season one, where John and I just like kind of had this connection that was developing via being, locked in a bunker underground during COVID together for 12 months or however long it took us. So yeah, I do feel that kind of level of trust and excitement about, whatever they put in front of me, I'm going to be excited to see.
same.
All right. Well, I can't wait for season 3. Seasons 1 and 2, of course, are streaming on Apple TV Plus. It's such an exceptional season. All 3 of you do truly extraordinary work. The Knicks and the Celtics are tied, for what it's worth. I want to thank everyone for coming out on this bad hair night. This is for me. And I want to thank these 3 extraordinary actors, Jen Tullock, Zach Cherry, and Merritt Wever, so much for joining me.